Now, more stories, insights, and analysis of Illinois policy and politics. This is Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Policy Institute. Once again, your host, AM 560's Dan Proft.
Dan Proft back with Cole Lauterbach, reporter for the Illinois News Network on this edition of Illinois Rising. Cole, a couple of things with respect to the governor's rather contentious relationship with public sector unions this week, although not all public sector unions. It's quite interesting. You had a 8,000-person rally, public sector workers on Wednesday at the Capitol. But a underreported story, of course, was that the governor successfully negotiated yet another collective bargaining agreement with a public sector union representing a small group of public sector workers. 17 collective bargaining agreements the administration has, the Rauner administration has successfully negotiated with Teamsters, and the most recent one with the Illinois Federation of Teachers, where you've got the public sector unions agreeing to take wage freezes and make other concessions because of the financial state of the state. And yet AFSCME, the state's largest public sector union representing some 37,000 state workers, the real impetus behind that rally I mentioned on Wednesday, refuses to relent. They won a contract that would cost Illinois taxpayers another $3 billion in a state that's got $10 billion in unpaid bills and $212 billion in debt. I mean, it's just not feasible. And so the governor, at some point, I think, is going to have to dispense with his conciliatory rhetoric towards the public sector unions that are intransigent and tell them if here's the last best final offer. If you don't like it, then you got a problem because we're going to look for people to replace you.
Right. Well, and I mean, like you said, AFSCME at this point is they're not looking at contract demands in respect to the current reality fiscally of the state of Illinois. When you're talking about continued, increases over 4 years, just automatic step increases, and then also at the same time, Governor Rauner is coming back and saying, "Look, you can have increases, but I want them to be based off of performance, merit." And I'm not saying you need to take a off the board wage freeze, but you also have to think about the scope of this. You're talking billions of dollars for 0.5% of the entire workforce in Illinois, that 37,000 workers.
Right. I mean, you get a sense that there's more than there actually is just because of the coverage, and you see 8,000 people in Springfield, but at the end of the day, it represents a small fraction of the overall Illinois workforce, while the big fraction pays for largesse they don't see. Governor Rauner was in Carterville in southern Illinois on Wednesday while this rally was going on. He responded.
I could see that the Democrats were going to pass another out-of-balance budget. So every year they've been passing a budget that's either $4 or $5 billion deficit with no money to pay for it. So it's not really even a budget, and frankly, it's unconstitutional. Our Constitution of the state says a balanced budget is required. Well, the Democrats in General Assembly just ignore it, and they pass spending bills with no way to pay for it.
And this is kind of why he has embarked on the structural reforms, at least in proposal form, that he has embarked upon, and is holding fast to saying, I got to have some structural reforms. We have to change the costs imposed by state government. We have to bend the cost curve effectively. And he's not impressed by AFSCME sloganeering.
In Springfield, I think there's several thousand protesters there right now. So, I mean, there's a lot of people. You know what? It's funny. If yelling and chanting and protesting solved problems, Illinois wouldn't have any problems. I mean, we have a lot of that.
Yeah.
I think that, he's right. If Illinois was run off of chanting and, screaming at people, then we would get a lot done.
If ifs and buts were candy and nuts, everybody would have a Merry Christmas, and that's just not the way it is. But in terms of chanting and rallying the crowd, House Speaker Mike Madigan put down his sliced apples and came out to the rally to, offer his little back and forth ping-ponging with his public sector union financiers. Listen to House Speaker Mike Madigan to Rauner's point.
Tell me how you feel. Governor Rauner wants to change workers' compensation. How do you feel? Governor Rauner wants to change collective bargaining. How do you feel? Governor Rauner wants to change the prevailing wage. How do you feel?
Sounds like a pattern.
Governor Rauner wants to use the government to lower wages. How do you feel?
Sounds like Frampton.
Governor Rauner wants to use
Yeah,
the government to
that's-
lower the standard of living. How do you feel?
Oh,
Governor Rauner in workers' compensation wants to send injured workers to the emergency room. How do you feel?
where should injured
Governor
people go?
Rauner wants to send injured workers to the welfare. How do you feel?
The welfare.
Here's the last question. Governor Rauner wants Illinois to go right to work. How do you feel?
No. By the way, no is not a feeling. And then Madigan ended that with his white power salute, then walked off the stage, dropped the mic. And you just wonder, Governor Rauner would like you to think for yourself. Do you want to do that? No. No, this is part of the problem. But it shows you that all of the talk from Madigan, Chicago Democrat bosses, legislative leaders in Springfield, about any willingness to compromise and find common ground and all the meaningless phrases they like to bandy about. He goes back to his base camp there, and that's what he's saying. I mean, that's the real Madigan. That's the real play. It's just a power play. And, of course, all those structural reforms he ticked out, no, we don't want to do any of those things because we want to protect the status quo that served me very well over the last 3 decades, while Illinois has become the worst governed state in the nation with the worst financial condition and unemployment 20% higher than the national average. So why would we change anything? Things are going so well.
Right. And he is just looking at this point in Mike Madigan's career, as his long, illustrious career as Speaker of the House, what does he have to gain personally from going along with any of these reforms that, like you said, would change the status quo and would endanger his political power base?
By the way, I want to introduce the new statewide spokesperson for the public sector unions. It's Stephanie. She was introduced by Michael Kerrigan, the president of the AFL-CIO in Illinois. Listen to this.
Illinois is seriously endangered by the governor's refusal to work on a fair budget. Stephanie Score is a student at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign who has helped to organize a lively protest against the governor, and she is here to be with us today. Stephanie.
Remember when Michael Kerrigan said he and she are here, and here's Stephanie.
Hello, Illinois. Hi, let's make some noise. Woo!
Yeah.
My name is Stephanie Scora. I am a proud transgender woman. I am a lifelong Illinois resident, and last Sunday I graduated from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign.
You're welcome, Stephanie.
And I am here today with all of you because I have a message for Governor Rauner from the students and the people of Illinois. You may have heard that Governor Rauner paid a visit to my school last month. We sent him packing after only 2 minutes of speaking.
Yeah. And all those tough guys in the trades and in police departments and fire stations around the state hiding behind Stephanie's skirt. Pathetic. Do we have any men that are still members of the trades, police departments, firehouses in the state of Illinois? Does Stephanie represent you, ladies?